Good afternoon. It's 5:02 p.m. and the regular session of Lancaster Major LC Citizens Oversight Committee will come to order. Member Burden will lead us in the invocation, and Member Derryberry will lead us in the pledge. Sure. Please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for bringing us together in great service to this city, God. I ask that you continue to bless all the committee members present and their families, all our staff meeting and their families. We thank you, Lord, for what you're doing in the city of Lancaster. We thank you that we've all come together on one accord to do what's best for the people of this city. We thank you for the tireless work and effort of everyone involved. Bless those who are absent today. Keep them safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Remain standing, face the flag of our nation, repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have the roll call, please?
Committee members: Bearden,
Present.
Derryberry,
Present.
Yeager, absent. Tepe,
Present.
Chair Bose.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I do not, well, there are members, no, that's our city manager reading back there in the corner. So, this would be public business from the floor, but since it does not appear there's any members of the public here, we'll move ahead to our consent calendar, which are the regular meeting minutes of June 3rd, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote. Oh, wait a minute, we do it by voice, don't we? All right, all those in favor then? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. We're all aye, 4 to,
I'm
Four
going to
over, one
abstain.
absent.
I wasn't at the meeting, so.
oh,
I'll abstain.
okay. So it'll be 3 yeses, 1 abstention, and 1 absent. Correct? Correct, okay. All right. Mr. Harris, thank you for calling us together today.
Thank you for joining us tonight. It's been, I feel like it's been a while since we've been together, actually. So before you tonight on the single item on the agenda is to really discuss how Measure LC is performing this year, as well as let you know that we've gone through our mid-year budget review, and there were no approved changes. There were no changes requested to any of the items that were approved as part of the current year budget last year when the budget was adopted in June. And really what I'm going to do today is really share an update and give you some information about Measure YM, which was actually approved by the voters in November of this last year. But real quick, we'll get into kind of where we left off with Measure LC as a reminder. And once I think it's appropriate to thank Mr. Vos for his presentation that he made at the last council meeting, well received by all. They understand the point of that was to really get the community to understand that there is a community representatives that in yourselves that are overseeing how these funds are allocated, and quite frankly enjoy the benefits of the funds because I see you all at a variety of events and taking part of all the things that we have going, so we appreciate it. As a reminder, when the committee was originally formed, we created our, the priority list, or the objectives, the core objectives that we thought where the money should be spent, beginning with life safety, public safety, quality of life items, and then and then something that we added from the staff was sound fiscal foundation. So utilizing the initial funds that we collected from Measure LC to actually well prepare our reserves and make sure that we were stable going into the future. Number one item that's been spending the bulk of the Measure LC funds is our police department, and that's no stranger. Our police chief has joined us here in the room at these meetings to discuss the progress that they've been making. Since we have met, 6 officers have been hired and have been deployed. We are in the process of hiring another 8 motorcycle officers that are going to be doing traffic enforcement in the community. As you may all know, that is, quite frankly, the biggest weakness I gather from the sheriff's department, is not being able to adequately enforce the traffic laws in the community, resulting in a number of incidents, homicides, speeding, and the like. And so it was the direction of the council as well as the city manager's office to make sure that the chief really focus on that early. And so we had originally put 4 bodies in the budget to be hired to do traffic enforcement. And as we saw that Measure YM was approved, and we're going to get a little bit into Measure YM in a second, we added another 4 bodies. And so there's going to be a total of 8, as I said, that are going to be on the streets very soon. I believe we have 5 in background now, and there were some interviews for a sergeant. That's going to be the motor officer sergeant. And then we're still working, we're still gathering and reviewing applications for the other 3 motor officers. Again, police department, the officers, the sergeant, the dispatchers, we have in the budget in this next cycle to hire 2 more dispatchers so we can run a 24-hour operation out of our dispatch center. Our intelligence crime center has been constructed utilizing Measure LC funds. If you ever get a chance to go to the police department and see what we have going on in that crime center, it's actually pretty impressive. I went in there with the simple test of, let's just test it. Tell me where I've been. And within 2 seconds, they had 50 images of my face on the screen where I had been seen throughout the community. And I said, well, find my car. And that was probably problematic too, because they found my car in Lancaster. They also found it in Palm Springs. I was at a conference not too long ago. So utilizing the same system that many other agencies do, we can tap into their databases as well, as it's all shared. And they were able to identify where my car was located over the last 6 months in a variety of different locations in Southern California. So as a result, we're utilizing the technology and helping the sheriff solve crimes a lot quicker. Drones, our drone program is working, would not be operational without Measure LC. The shot spotter system, the flock cameras, all the technologies going in, again, would not be possible without Measure LC. And then the virtual training center that the chief has talked about, if you do get a chance to go check that out, is actually pretty cool. They run you through a variety of scenarios. You actually have a weapon. You can actually fire at the screen. They'll let you know if you hit somebody or not, but they're actually manually going through options of responses as you are interacting with the video. If you have a chance to go check it out, it's actually pretty cool. We have actually got a few other agencies that have asked us to borrow our training virtual training module that we have. The Paris Center, status on that. I actually visited last Saturday. I went to the scene. It looks like they're pouring footings this week. If you see the size of the footings needed to build this building, each footing is probably the size of a swimming pool or a small swimming pool. It's going to be a huge building. They're moving very quickly. The state is running the construction of the project, so the feedback that we really get is just they ask us for a check and we send it for our portion of it. But they are moving. If you get a chance to go to the fair and check out the progress, I think we do have a video too as well, Charlize, right? We have a running video that's recording the scene. So we're keeping track of the progress. So at the end, we can actually show from dirt to grow in full expansion of the project. But it's pretty impressive. The footprint of that facility is very impressive. And again, it's 160,000 square feet, I believe, of event space, evacuation space, the community kitchen, and the EOC. It's 3 total buildings combined for that particular project. And of course, yes, we did financing, advanced financing for the project, but the debt service is going to be funded with Measure LC funds on an ongoing basis. LPAC, we've been able to keep LPAC going with Measure LC, and we have stuff going on there almost every day. I've driven past LPAC every night this week, because that's which way I go to get the kids from school. And there's been a bunch of little ones. I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's a bunch of, I think they're fourth and fifth graders, or third and fourth graders, and they're at the facility every night. They're doing concerts all week this week. And so it's pretty cool to drive by and see that it is getting the use that we intended it to be used for, who we intended to be used by, which is our community and our kids. Special events. All of them we have not canceled any special events, changed any special events. Matter of fact, we've been able to expand on special events as a result of Measure LC. Field of Drafts, as you know, this was the first year that it was moved from the Field of Drafts over to the fairgrounds, and it was a pretty decent turnout. Bunny Hop is happening this Saturday, and Monday Night Bites, I think they start up pretty soon, and if you go out there tonight, you'll see the farmers market on the boulevard. And so all of those events would not be possible if not for Measure LC funds coming in. Our cleanup program, they rebranded from the Tide team to the Team Up Lancaster program, in which they're encouraging social groups and various groups from the community to participate in those cleanups, all again funded with Measure LC funds. And it's great because, again, the Boy Scouts of America, different organizations can now team up with our staff and get out there and do those cleanups and volunteer as well. Community Center, I think we're in our third full year of operating the Community Center, and if you've been over there, it's pretty impressive. We actually have plans to purchase another Center City Community Center that I believe was on the last council meeting, to purchase that building from, what was the Desert Christian. It was one of the Desert Christian sites on Avenue K. And so we're going to be buying that facility soon and then converting it to an additional community center type facility. This is the original allocation that was approved back in June or May last year. It has not changed. There was no changes to this budget as a result of mid-year, so that it stays true. As we discussed, all of those things that we have on there are all actively moving, all being completed as it was originally intended, as per council direction and as per this body's direction. Again, kind of put in perspective how much money we're talking about when we collect Measure LC funds. Started out, and I'll get into how this is going to mirror the performance of Measure YM in a bit, but we have collected, at the end of this fiscal year, we would have collected close to a little bit over $92 million in Measure LC funds. Now let's talk about Measure YM. And I know that you may have some questions, so I'm attempting to answer the questions before you have them, but I may not succeed. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. But we'll go through this quickly. Little history of Measure YM, and we were all here. Pretty sure if you voted for it, hopefully, because it did pass. Measure YM was intended to take advantage of the 0.25 tax capacity made available with the passage of California of LA Measure A. So the homeless initiative by the county, before they had a 0.25 allocation from sales tax that had been in place for a number of years. Measure A, and it passed, of course, rescinded that 0.25 allocation as a portion of sales tax, and then they had legislative approval to apply a 50-cent sales tax outside of the statewide cap. That makes sense? And so by making it outside the cap, it made that 25 cents available for another local agency within the jurisdiction to take advantage. Our measure, going on that same exact ballot, did just that. And so we were able to take advantage of that 0.25 under the cap that Measure A made available when it rescinded its 0.25 and applied a 0.5 sales tax above the cap. That make sense? So that was the intent of Measure YM, is to be able to take advantage of that when it became available, so that another county agency didn't jump on and take away our opportunity to absorb that 0.25. Additionally, sponsored by Assemblymember Juan Carrillo, he had AB 2443 passed. And so if you look at your slides, you can look up the bill. I added the front page excerpt from the website there, whereby with the passage of his bill, and similarly, as the county was able to get legislative approval to get that 50 cents approved above the cap, Mr. Carrillo's bill allowed us to get a full dollar, a 1% approved above the cap as well for the 3 cities in his district, which included us, City of Lancaster, City of Palmdale, and the City of Victorville. Passed by all committees very, very quickly, because legislatively, if you're only trying to tax your district, what do the other assembly members care? And so it did go through. It passed through all the committees, both houses, and the governor signed it on September 29th, 2024. So our election takes place on November 5th. We get our results. City Council approves and certifies the election on December 10th. I work diligently over the Christmas break to make sure that the CDTFA has all of our paperwork and understands AB 2443, our measure, and Measure A, and how they all have to work together to kind of find out what the final calculation is. And we were able to do that, meet the deadline. So the first collection took place on April 1st. And so as of April 1st, and that's where you saw maybe a little bit of the news in the, regarding that in the paper and even in the local television news, you saw that tax triggering on April 1st. So before Measure YM, the breakdown at the top is what we were experiencing here in town. So the regular base state Bradley Burns assessment of 7.25 is state authorized. If you incorporate it as a city in the state of California, that is your base sales tax amount. The county, before Measure A, levied a 2.25 gap for a variety of different departments at the county. Some of them are transportation related, homeless related, but it's a variety of different county departments that levy and add up to that 2.25. And then you had our city measure LC at the 0.75, resulting in what we used to have prior to April 1st as a rate of 10.25 here locally. After April 1st, same 7.25 state Bradley Burns. As you see, the county rescinded their 0.25 and then added their 0.5. So now their new rate is 2.5. And then we added another 0.75 at this time for Measure YM, which brings our total transaction and sales tax between Measure LC and Measure YM to 1.5. That's what brought it up. That's how you calculate the 11.25. Are there any questions to that? Also, at the same time, when the council
watch the bouncing ball, huh? So the question that I have for Measure A for the county, they're not levying the city's side. Some people have in their mind that the increase is a full 1%, but in fact, it's for the city's jurisdiction, it's 0.75, yeah?
It's a new 0.75 to us and 0.25 in addition to them. If that
On
makes
top
sense.
of YM or LC,
Correct.
which will produce, assuming the marketplace stays the same, a net of about 40 million a year.
About 42 combined, yes. Correct.
Is that all?
It's going to be a great opportunity for the city to do more, absolutely. In that same action where the council adopted the resolutions to certify the election, they actually agreed to defer. And similarly, they did also Palmdale. Palmdale actually adopted theirs the same way in their Measure PD. We adopted an actual deferral of the other 50 cents. So we could have gone up that additional one. We went 1.25. We went 0.75. And then we got the 0.25 that they abandoned underneath the cap. So our actual capacity went up from 0.75 of Measure LC to a possible total 2 points, 2%, if that makes sense, because we were able to do 1% on top of the cap, plus we got the 0.25 under the cap that was abandoned by the Measure A. So the council took action to not implement the full 1.25 that we now had available to us. They only decided to implement the 0.75 and then defer the implementation of the remaining 0.5 in 2 parts. One to be triggered January 28, the second to be triggered in January 29. However, we have heard from the council that depending on what the city's financial situation, they may defer those further, depending on the financial health of the community.
So the city council has to, by resolution, implement the 2028 and 2029, or is
So
there
they've actually already triggered it. They've triggered it. So their action was to implement the 0.75 on April 1st of 2025, the next 0.25 on January of 28, and the final 0.25 on January 29. That is their action. If they do nothing else, that's how it will be implemented. They would have to take a subsequent action to further defer those remaining 2 additions.
Thank you.
So we did do a tax analysis. So as the questions were raising about, okay, you guys have the highest sales tax in the region. Quite frankly, it ends up being the highest sales tax in the state. I like to remind them that it's not just us. And I thank you to the point that you're making. Yes, we had an increase, but the county also has an increase. And even through this process, even if we trigger the final 2 increases, we are still not levying in the city of Lancaster as much as the county levies. So remember, their levy, even at that final implementation, their levy is 2.5 and ours still is capped at 2. And so the bulk of what's going on outside of what is the minimally required by the Bradley-Burns regulations, 2.5 is going to the county while only 2% remains with us. But I dug in. There's questions about how do we compare to the other cities? Because one thing they're going to do is they're going to compare that tax rate of the 11.25 as the highest ever and the highest anywhere. And then I was like, well, but it's not going to make us rich when compared to some of the other cities down the hill. And so I did an analysis upon the request of Vice Mayor Chris. How do we compare? And so when we start talking about how other cities levy taxes, there's a variety of options of taxes that can be applied and elected locally in your organization. A district transactions and use tax, as we have in Measure LC and Measure YM, is just one particular option. Another option for those cities that don't have as much of a sales tax base, they just don't have the shopping, like some of the bedroom communities, they have a lot of people, they don't have a lot of stores, they don't have the base. What they'll do is levy a utility users tax and levy all the utility bills in the community. So so it's a tax on their electric bill, their gas bill, their water, wastewater, gas, and in some kinds even internet and telephone. We don't have that tax. A lot of cities do. So I provided you all with a copy of this document that you have at your desk. And so what I did there is I went into the latest state controller's report where all cities have to actually report all of our financials to the state. And so they built this central repository of what everybody earns and what everybody spends across the state, not just LA County. But I just picked up on all the LA County agencies and did a comparison. And so what we did is we looked at property tax revenues, not what's paid, but the revenues actually received by the cities, their utility users tax, which in our particular case, we don't have one. So it would be unfair for us to compare ourselves to a city that does not have a transactions use sales tax, but they have a utility users tax. What I was trying to do is just capture all the types of taxes that they're using to fund their agency. Sales tax, of course. So the sales tax that you see in that sales tax column is really just the Bradley-Burns portion of sales tax, because that's everybody that is the common nomenclature to describe the Bradley Burns sales tax that's coming in. But if they have a special sales tax on the side, what you'll find is that you'll find that in the other column, along with any other types of taxes that they classify on their state controller's report. And then I use the latest census data to come up with the population total, to come up really to level the playing field and figure out what are these sales tax revenues producing per capita in all 88 cities. You got to get pretty far down the list to find both Lancaster and Palmdale. So this is prior to April 1st. What was our picture prior to April 1st? We ranked number 74 and 76 out of the 88 in the total tax in these categories produced per capita. And it makes sense, right? We don't have the most expensive real estate. We don't have the economic centers that produce or the attraction centers like a City of Los Angeles or West Hollywood or Burbank, for that matter, that produces the volume of sales tax per capita that's generated significantly from outside of our population in. And just going back to the property tax, you can't get into down the hill for less than $1 million for a single family home. Here you can find something in the fours, right? And so and on top of that, we're a low property tax city, which means that for every dollar that you spend on your property tax bill, the city of Lancaster only gets 6.7 cents of that for every dollar that you spend. And a lot of those agencies that were actually incorporated decades prior, that percentage and that share is significantly higher. And so in addition to the county taking the 2.5 of the total 11.25 of what we're doing here, even this year, a lot of those cities down the hill actually get a larger percentage of their property tax, which is based on a home that's priced significantly higher than what we experience here. And so when we start talking about the per capita revenue having such a large variance between what's happening down the hill and here, the cost of a sheriff officer is the same. The cost of asphalt is the same. The cost of all those things that we do, from a cost standpoint, very much the same. From a revenue standpoint, significantly different. Then I plugged in what the second bullet is describing. I plugged in, well, how much better will it make us by adding the new revenue from Measure YM? So that's the second piece of paper that you have. And again, you got to go, we're not on the front page. It didn't move us up into the green or the yellow. Right, if you look at the quartiles or the quarters, how I broke down the 88 cities, it moves us from red to orange. So we move from being ranked 74 and 76 to being ranked 62 and 63. It gives us a slight better fighting chance at being able to afford the future that we have, given the fact that all of our expenditure line items are relatively the same as those cities down the hill. As we put together the response, and I know that the night that Mr. Vos spoke at the council meeting, we played this video, so it's going to be a second time for him. Steve, you definitely saw it at AV Edge. That's what we actually created the video for. But this is a video that we created to kind of help explain to the community, if asked, what is YM about? What are we doing with it? And then I have some additional slides after the video to talk about exactly where the buckets of focus are going to be for the priorities.
Hello, Lancaster residents. I'm Vice Mayor Marvin Christ, and today I'm excited to discuss Measure YM's pivotal role in shaping a more vibrant and secure future for our community. Measure YM reflects Lancaster residents' desire to keep more of our money here in the city of Lancaster. The residents of Lancaster passed this measure in November of '24. Your voice has been heard. Now it's the city's turn to provide critical improvements in public safety, recreational facilities, and community programs, including our Midtown Educational Center, new stadium, new disaster recovery facility, and aquatic center. These initiatives ensure Lancaster remains a place where safety and a community thrive. The county currently collects 2.5% of the total taxable sales. This represents $70 million in real dollars paid by our residents to the county. The city is getting back less than $20 million in allocated for our local share. This despite our city's significant size and large amount of infrastructure. Overall, Lancaster maintains one of the lowest effective tax rates across Los Angeles County. If you take into consideration sales, property, and utility taxes, Lancaster collects on average $480 per capita, which is far less than the county's average of $1,041 per capita. Even the state legislature and the governor recognized how underserved the Antelope Valley is and passed AB 2443. This allowed both cities in the Antelope Valley to keep more sales tax dollars local and to support our essential services. While the county reallocates over $50 million of Lancaster residents' dollars to other parts of the county, we focus on what directly benefits Lancaster. Our measure ensures more of your tax dollars are invested right here at home, upgrading our infrastructure, building out a police department, and fostering a business-friendly environment that supports growth and safety. The City Council prioritizes and ensures safe, streamlined processes, minimize bureaucracy, and maximize efficiency. This approach allows us to be more maneuverable, providing quicker, more actionable results. It's our commitment to responsive government that enables us to efficiently manage our resources and win awards, reflecting our dedication to the effective and agile city government. With Measure YM, we're not just planning for today, we're building for tomorrow. Your continued support enables us to expand public safety operations, preserve our neighborhoods, and provide comprehensive homeless services, covering every aspect of the community well-being. Thank you for trusting us with the future of Lancaster. Together, we are not only dreaming of a better tomorrow, we are actively creating it.
The reality is I couldn't have said it better than Marvin, so I played his video. He is very passionate about this. It was his brainchild when he knew that Measure A was going to do what it's going to do to go after that 0.25 cents. Didn't know that simultaneously that the assembly member was working on something for both Victorville and Palmdale and included us in that because we're in his district to receive that extra 1%. We found that out after council had taken the action to place the agenda item or place the ballot measure on. It was discovered then that Mr. Carrillo was doing that. And so it's worked out. It's worked out for, I believe it's going to work out significantly for us. It's going to work out significantly as a benefit to the city of Palmdale. But think about it, just in this next fiscal year, that's $42 million of new revenue between the two cities that's going back into this community, generated in this community. So let's talk about what the plans are and what we're going to do with the money and how we're potentially shifting, not necessarily shifting focus, but expanding on the original focus of Measure LC. No surprise here that our number one priority is going to be public safety, as we added the 4 bodies to the traffic enforcement as a result of Measure YM being approved in November. Again, really focusing on beautification, economic reinvestment, and then child care and youth development in the community, knowing that these are, one, we've heard the cries from the community as to what they want to see, and this is our attempt at trying to meet what they're asking for with these priorities. Lancaster Police Department, the homeless plan implementation is really actually going to implement a portion. I can't be so mad at Measure A because we do get a larger allocation for Measure A as what we had received prior. So that's going to go and help the Measure YM funds towards our homeless plan implementation. Yes.
And what do you anticipate that to be?
Charlize and I were talking about it this morning. We believe that's going to be between $800,000 and $900,000 additional. And so, given the fact that they're taking, well, I mean, and if you think about an additional 25 cents that they're levying us, our community down there, which results in about $5 million, they're kicking back $900,000. And so that's why we need to take control of the revenue here. Going back to the statement that Mr. Chris made in the video, $70 million going down, $20 million coming back. And that's really what's the impetus between going for a higher tax for our own. Traffic enforcement, as we talked about, citywide crime prevention technology strategy, which actually next week, Charlize and I and the chief are going to a conference in Arizona, where the whole conference is hosted by Axum. And that's the company that actually designs the body cams, and they have a bunch of AI products as well that are being created and developed for public safety. So we're going to check out what we can implement right away and take advantage of the latest new developments. And then code enforcement. From a beautification standpoint, public art, as we know, that has been well received throughout the community. Landscaping maintenance districts is something that we started prioritizing with Measure LC, and we're going to expand upon. Street paving, which is something we always have to keep up with. And so that's beautification in the community really starts with those roads as people enter in the community. So we're going to make sure we stay on top of that program, and then helping out that existing program with additional funds, and maybe adding a second illegal dumping and graffiti team. And those are two separate teams, respectively. Economic reinvestment, the Shop More in Lancaster gift card. It was a program that was actually described just this past Tuesday, and the investment has been made there. The Paris Center, when it is open, is going to need programming. And so we're going to really focus a marketing effort on getting that facility used, as it is going to be a long-term expense for the city, but making sure that we're being creative as well as thoughtful in how the allocation of time is going to be spent at the facility, but making sure that it's full, making sure that we keep folks in there. And then the economic development-based AI analysis. And so a lot of what we're doing there is utilizing technology, cell phone technology. We have a company now that gave us a report on how well AV Alta's first game went, as far as drawing people into that space. And they can use AI technology by tracking cell phones in the region to kind of calculate what impact the event had on foot traffic drawing into the space. And so utilizing those kind of tools to kind of source where economic development needs to go, but then also being able to monitor and react to how it went, and measure what events are doing well and what events are not, and really focus on those that are doing well. The Midtown Educational Center, we talked a little bit about that. The enhanced farmers market, as you see, we're going to be adding more elements to the farmers market. The new aquatic center is valued at about $80 million. It's a new aquatic center that's going to be built across the street from Steve Owen Park, with a pedestrian bridge that takes you across 10 West. We are in preliminary design on that. We're working through, actually, we have a meeting next week to talk about the financing in partnership with the school district, the high school district. But yeah, an $80 million facility is expected to be built there to benefit our community as well as the high school kids, and so that they have a third facility to actually compete at as well as practice. And then the third grade reading proficiency program is something that I believe a few of our folks here in the community and the Parks and Recs are working on. So that concludes the presentation. If you have any other questions about Measure YM, I can answer them. Was not intending to take a lot of your time. I think I actually took more time than I planned, because I know a few of you have other things you have to do this evening, but I'm available to answer any questions you have.
So what's this committee involved with any oversight or participation in YM or not?
Yes, so the same oversight language was included in the measure, I believe. And so, yes, this would now, I guess we're going to have to rename the committee to be let's use the official terminology. The Lancaster Measure LC/YM Citizen Oversight Committee. So that you will get we'll change your name on your agenda, and we'll send you new cards.
So we volunteered for that, huh?
Yeah, congratulations. You have all been appointed.
We've been voluntold.
You've been voluntold. You are now also overseeing the Measure YM expenditures as well.
So, you threw around some numbers relative to these last 3 pages.
Mm-hmm.
However, you didn't provide a breakdown of all of it, because maybe you haven't
Yeah, we're,
focused on finalizing it. However, I'm aware, and I imagine my fellow committee members are, that the city council has already approved spending $5 million on one project and so on and so forth. So maybe we ought to have a little finer focus on what the proposals are for these
Correct.
line items, and maybe look at some dollar amounts just for curiosity's sake.
It's beyond curiosity's sake. The $5 million that you speak of is actually $5 million that was allocated out of previous funds, mostly surplus cash that we had during the COVID era that we're spending to purchase the facility. I guess we're calling it the Center City Children's Event Center. That's actually coming out of another project that was set aside prior. No new funding has been added to this project out of Measure YM funds yet. Also, so the only real allocation for Measure YM funds are the 4 new officer motorcycle cops that we felt more comfortable going with and adding to the budget after we saw that Measure YM was approved. You will definitely get more numbers as you get your typical meeting regarding budget next year. So we are still in budget development for fiscal
So
year
it's at
26.
about $1.5 million?
I'm sorry?
About
For-
$1.5 million for the 4?
For the 4, yeah, I would, no, probably shy, maybe 1.2 in the first year. Because they're not hired yet, so there's probably there's a fraction of that as
Well,
they
the
would.
ongoing, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, so
salary,
that's full freight.
benefits,
Yeah, exactly.
equipment.
Yeah, well, and then motorcycles.
on,
We have to
yeah.
buy the 4 more motorcycles. We have to get them fully equipped, and then training's going to cost some. So we'll have all those numbers when we come back to you in a couple of months to talk about the fiscal year 25-26 budget numbers, which will closely resemble that same chart and table that we have for Measure LC.
Great, thank you.
So obviously, you know, as involved as I am personally with the city and other, you know, with everything that the city's been doing, I have a lot of understanding of everything you just said. I think what I hear in the community is, we've got the highest sales tax now. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because the community doesn't have a full education and understanding on why we did the tax to begin with. And all of this stuff that you showed us, I understood it before I got here today, but very few people do. So they don't understand the options that the city has to tax us in other ways, and why it is that our per capita tax rate is as low as it is in comparison to other cities, and why this is not as drastic as the other options that the city has.
Right.
You know, and the city's done an incredible job, in my opinion, from a marketing standpoint, just in general. If my 2 cents means anything, is maybe a little bit of outreach on why YM was brought forth, and why LC and YM are going to be so successful, and why it was the best option versus the other taxes that could have been put in place here to keep the money here. I mean, if you look back, I supported both measures openly and in public. I have no problem doing that. I have no problem explaining to people, but obviously my voice is only heard by those around me. So from an outward perspective, I mean, the communities in general, you know, I mean, the news articles came out. I think it was on, you know, not national, but local news, broader than the Allen Valley. Palmdale, Lancaster sales tax rates are the highest. You know, we know in general, we don't have the most affluent community in LA County, and so now we're paying the highest tax rates. You know, I can explain to people, but my reach is only so far, you know, so I don't know what the city can do. Marketing and Trelease, you guys have an incredible team here. Just maybe some sort of small education, you know, kind of get rid of some of the rumors that are out there, you know.
Yeah.
That my 2 cents on that.
You
So
stole the words right out of my mouth. That was literally everything I was about to say. Thank you for sharing that. I feel in the community at large, there's a general disconnect between what we come here and see you all doing and what we see in the community and what they know. I don't necessarily have like a one-size-fit-all answer for it, but I just, you know, I can tell in the community, like, the things that are available now through Measure LC there's a general disconnect in the community as far as what's available to them. Oh, I can take my kid to this community center and do this, and I can, you know what I mean? So there obviously when we have to pay more money, people see that right away. And this is a perfectly well laid out explanation, as Mr. Derryberry stated, but I think there's no understanding with the community at large. And I feel like, and honestly, I've seen the marketing effort stepped up majorly, so I want to say thank you all for that, because I see it looks beautiful on all the Facebook and Instagram pages. I can tell you're doing the work, but how are we going to engage the community in education so that they know, what we can explain to them one-on-one, but may not have the capacity to do with the community at large? Because I think this is all awesome. It's been awesome. I'm thankful to be a part of it, but I think they still don't know even things. So now we're at YM, and I think they still don't even understand how LC was benefiting them. Right. And so how do we get to a point where that communication is being dispersed throughout the community, throughout our entire community, and where they can feel confident, like, yeah, you know, because I combat those conversations every time I hear them in the community. I'm like, well, I serve on this board that lets you know where the money is being spent. And whenever those conversations come up, I'm doing it 10 times out of 10. I love it. I defend this city with everything that's in me because I love it here. But I do understand what Stephen said, that there's just, they probably don't know, you know, and how do we get to a point where they know outside of just what we've been doing with all the beautiful social media posts and the language and everything that's out. But I think we have to figure out a way to do a little bit more than that. And so, yeah.
And that's fair, and I respect the involvement that all of you have in the community and the fact that you are being hit up with these very questions. That's why I wanted to make sure I took the time tonight to get you the information and avail myself and my staff, and of course Turley's, I'm sure, will be available to answer these questions as they come about. It's complex. It's complex, and the way that we tried to summarize it in Marvin's video was such that we kind of get the hints out there and kind of really layer it a little bit, right, with the comparison on the per capita dollars, the fact that it's a local control effort, that we do understand and respect that if we do nothing, then the county does have the ability to take even more from us and spin it down the hill. And so that was the true impetus of going this direction. I hear you as far as adding more marketing to really tell the story. I feel like we have to tell it in pieces so that they get it and kind of slow it down a little bit, because it is complex. I'm not saying anybody's slow. I'm saying it's complex, and it took me a day to sit down with the state folks and really work out how all the pieces kind of meld together. And this is what I do. And so we're gonna take the opportunity. Words are very well received. We'll take that opportunity and make sure that we're interjecting in as much of our marketing as we can. The biggest thing too is that people really need to see that, you know, when something is erected, like the aquatic center funded by Measure LC, funded by Measure YM, they need to see, they need to tangibly be able to touch the items that these funds go to. It's hard to do that with events. We can though, but like Poppy Festival, you know, brought to you by Measure LC, Measure YM funding, those types of things. And the reality is, without that funding, we would not be able to provide those events. And so that's the attempt here, is to make sure that we're continuously telling them, because I could tell them today, I don't even know if next week you guys remember everything that we discussed today. And so we have to have recurring messaging that goes out that just continues to remind them that, you know, these are your tax dollars at work. That's the intent. That has actually already been kind of put in the play. Can we compete with everybody on the AV scanners of the world that are, you know, that they misunderstand, or they're running tangents as to what it's all about? The best way we can do is compete with that is just continue to put the facts out and hope that they could sort it and be open and willing to discuss it whenever possible.
You know, I think from my perspective, looking at the police department, you know, you put up the LPAC. I don't know how many of you guys know, 15 years I've been on the LPAC Foundation's board. I've been the president since Lou Bozigian resigned, you know, almost a decade now. We service, every year we bring 15,000 kids to that theater. You know, with some of the stuff that you guys have here now with these two opportunities, with these two measures, I mean, we have an opportunity to bring even more kids, to expose them to things that they'll never be able to see.
Right.
You know, and I think when you look at the safety and the students, you keep some health in there and some other opportunities for the community. That's where the money is best spent. So, you know, I mean, I get excited when I see the LPAC up there. That's my baby.
Yeah.
That thing gets me. Every time I get in there, I just get excited. I love that place.
Yeah.
I love it more when my kid comes home from school and says, "Daddy, I went to the LPAC today." And when we hear it in the community, so that we see it, all of us on this panel, we all see it. You know, I know the staff does. I mean, I'm grateful for it. You know, it hurts a little bit to spend a couple extra pennies every time I spend $1, but I don't have a problem doing it at all, because I know that the city, and I don't have a problem shouting it from the rooftops. The city's doing good things with it. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you for that.
You know, one idea I had too is, I don't know when the aquatic center is set to be completed, but we do have the Olympics coming up, and I don't know if we could put some pressure on whoever's working that to maybe have some events at the aquatic center, also at the soccer center. It would be neat to be able to bring some of those people up here for some of the Olympic events as a possible idea.
Sonia Patterson, our Parks and Recs director, she has actually been going to those LA 28 meetings, where it's a collection of all the cities in LA County getting together to prepare for the Olympics coming, and just letting them know and reminding them and availing our resources that we have up there to the Olympic effort, and just making sure, hey, we'll have you too, if you know, whatever you guys need. And so that is a regular meeting that she attends, and latest feedback is that they're still just gathering information from all the cities to find out where the resources are.
Do they, I know it's way early for that, but do they maybe anticipate bringing some of those events, or any event, whatever it might be, fencing to the Mark Center or to the rec center? Like,
You never know.
I
That's
get
the
excited
idea.
when I think about things like that.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to really let them know what facilities we have,
Right.
and what capacity we have, and just throwing it into their bucket of facilities that they're going to need to use to allocate all the games. And so it's still in the early stages, but we do have a presence in the room when they're talking, which is Sonia's been attending those meetings.
One thing we have no shortage up here is land and space.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think our event center, or I'm sorry, our aquatic center is going to rival the one that they have near LA, or near the Coliseum. That one has been around since the '84 Olympics, I believe, and so ours is going to have dive platforms. It's going to have all those things too as well. So the idea is, you know, we should be able to compete on as far as how nice our facility is, if we can get it built in time.
That's awesome.
Indoor facility with 24 basketball, volleyball courts. If you build it, I've been going to Orange County every weekend for the last 3 months with my daughter's traveling volleyball team, and it is absolutely incredible. They take these gigantic warehouses and shove 24 courts in there.
Wow.
And they have, 4 teams at any one time playing on all these courts. I mean, the amount of travel to the area is extraordinary. It's akin to what I remember when we opened. I worked Parks and Rec in the 90s when the soccer center opened. And I remember how people used to travel from LA and Orange County, Ventura County to come play soccer. I'm telling you, indoor basketball, volleyball facility. If the Mark or the Paris Center has got the room or opportunity for it, I'm telling you, there's a huge amount of attraction for that.
It's going to generate so much money for the city. Like my son played travel ball for a little while, and it just, the capacity to go to Orange County 2-3 times in a weekend, people don't want to do it up here. They do because it's been the only option,
Right.
especially if you're looking to go toward where the competition is. And we have so many, just basketball alone, we have so many, I'm talking great coaches up here with great talent. And we open that thing and put those courts in there, I'm telling you, the competition will then come to us. We don't have to keep traveling all the time. That's going to change everything out here because there's so much of it out here.
Yeah, that market research was done. When we put $60 million into a facility, right? And so we needed to know that there was going to be a use, and that use is, although shared with all the other agencies up here, but is 100% the intent. That's not a building that we're building just for emergency operations. We're building a facility to do just that and make sure that it's full. And part of the funds that we have that we're going to be collecting is putting together a true marketing team to get it marketed and make sure that's being used regularly.
Awesome.
All right, any other questions?
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Harris.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
We look forward to hearing some of the details in a few months, I assume. All right then, any other comments from members before we adjourn?
Thank you for the comparison with the different cities. That was very helpful.
I know it's, where are we, in April now, but I just wanted to say that I appreciated the spotlights the city did during Black History Month on all the pages, the Not Your Average Joe things and the profiles of, I knew, like, personally several of the members that were highlighted, so I just wanted to say thank you for that. I thought that was cool. That was awesome. Does not go unnoticed in the community.
All right then. We'll stand adjourned and at the call of the chair sometime in the next 3 or 4 months, most likely. All right?
Okay.
Thank you all, and thank you very much for the in-depth presentation today.